Hi, I'm Caden, here with my brother,
Cal,
and you're watching Eating W's.
eat the W.
That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W.
On this episode of Eating W's, we have our predictions for Week 2 of the 2023 NFL season. But before we jump into those Week 2 predictions, we're going to jump back to Week 1 quick and do a quick update on the scoring and Cal and I's head-to-head. Close week, but Callan did just barely get the notch on me. I put up 8 points while Callan put up 9 points. We got the same number of opposing games correct, but he got the game of the week correct with the picking the Packers, which gave him 2 points. Hence the 1 point lead he got on me. So good job on that one.
Go Pack, go.
And then now we will jump into our Week 2 predictions, starting with Thursday Night Football and none other than the Minnesota Vikings heading to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles on Thursday Night Football. And we, of course, have a split here. I have the Minnesota Vikings. Callan has the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, it's kind of ironic that Week 2 is a primetime game with the Vikings heading to Philadelphia. Seems a little familiar because just last year it happened on Monday Night Football with the Minnesota Vikings heading to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles in Week 2. So it's kind of weird that that happened 2 years in a row, but I guess when there's so many games every year, some little weird anomalies have to happen here and there. But I got the Vikings in this one, of course, because I'm a Vikings fan and you got to rep your team, but mostly because the NFL just makes no sense. The Eagles and Vikings actually both looked kind of sloppy last week, but the Vikings much sloppier, and of course the Eagles are going to be favored by a lot of points. But crazy things happen in the NFL each week, and it seems like year in and year out it just gets crazier and crazier. So when these dominant performances like this are supposed to happen, like the Eagles are supposed to probably dominate the Vikings on primetime, especially with primetime Kirk and the way everyone does that.
Oh, yeah.
Why not have the insanity of the Vikings coming out and winning this year when last year they just barely even showed up?
Yeah, that is true. They could do the opposite of last year when it was kind of a beatdown for the Vikings. But, you know, it just gets past Kirk's bedtime, and he just doesn't play very well when it gets that late. But no, I think the Eagles will win here because of that dominant defensive line. The Vikings are having some injury troubles on the offensive line. I saw Darisaw and Bradbury both miss practice this week, so they're questionable to play. I just think that's going to be really tough to overcome with that young, strong defensive line of the Eagles.
Yeah, and we have Ed Ingram in the middle there at right guard, so that's just a liability all on its own. But yeah, that's definitely our weakest position going against their strongest position, which you hate to see. You said it was past Kirk's bedtime, which is true last year, but that was Captain Kirk. Now we have Kirko Chains.
That's true.
Kirko Chains is a partier. He stays up late.
He stays up late.
He's ready for prime time.
He goes past midnight.
Give me the Vikings in Thursday Night Football. Moving on, next up we have our game of the week with the AFC divisional round matchup from last year with the Kansas City Chiefs heading to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. And we both actually ended up agreeing on this one, but agreeing on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Callan has them marked as his upset. Now, this one, what it really comes down to for me is Travis Kelce going to be 100%? It looks very likely that he'll play, but playing and being 100% is very different, especially when you are the true workhorse of an offense. The Chiefs' offense as a whole looked sloppy last week, which of course they did when they thought they would have Travis Kelce and all of a sudden they didn't. But that's more of a game plan thing. They look sloppy in their actual play. I want to say 7 total drops, 3 huge, crucial drops by Kadarius Toney alone. The Jags definitely didn't play overly great, but they had a divisional matchup. Those are always toughly contested. The Chiefs had the Lions. They went against one of the lesser defenses in the league last year. and just couldn't do anything, it almost seemed like. Struggled to even put up 20 points, which is just absolutely insane to say about a Chiefs offense. But it's going to really be a toss-up, and it's going to really depend on Travis Kelce. But for now, I have the Jags.
Yeah, I definitely think that the Jags will win this. I got them as my upset special of the week. I think that Trevor Lawrence is going to come out and play very well. He proved to have a great rapport with Calvin Ridley, who had quite the game in week 1. So he's got that going already. And there's also Zay Jones and Christian Kirk, who barely got involved. So there's a lot more weapons for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And they almost beat the Chiefs in the playoffs last year. And I think now that it's down in Jacksonville, the Jaguars will overcome some demons and get the best of the Chiefs this week.
You didn't even mention Evan Ingram, another weapon on that offense that was underutilized last week. So just playmakers everywhere there in Jacksonville. Next up, we have Callan's team in the Green Bay Packers heading to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. And we agree yet again. We both have the Packers in this one. I really like Bijan Robinson. I think that the Falcons will have a decent season this year, but the Packers are coming off of a huge win last week in Chicago. They're used to being on the road now, considering they started with a road game, and the Falcons just aren't going to be quite enough. One thing I am interested to see, though, is Jesse Bates, and if he's able to play super well against a young quarterback in Jordan Love, like he did last week against the Panthers and Bryce Young, having 2 interceptions, one being in the red zone, or one being on the Panthers side of the field, which gave them an automatic red zone drive for Atlanta. Huge plays on there by Jesse Bates. Will he be able to recreate that against Green Bay?
Yeah, both Jesse Bates and Bijan Robinson terrified me this week. There's definitely a chance that there could be an upset, just because if those 2 players play very well, then I think that the Falcons could have a decent chance. But I think that the way that Jordan Love played was just spectacular. And I think that he showed that he belongs in this league. And I know it was just 1 game, but just to be able to show the growth of how he played in recent games or in recent seasons, because remember, he's been in the league now 4 years. So he's been around for a little while, and I think that really shows, and really shows in his maturation.
You know if Christian Watson's going to play?
He says he's going to play. He hasn't been ruled. He's still questionable, but he said he's going to play.
Interesting.
So take that for what it's worth.
Let's say some good confidence from him.
Yeah.
Moving on, we got an NFC West matchup with the San Francisco 49ers heading up into Los Angeles to take on the Los Angeles Rams. And we split yet again here. Callan has the 49ers, and I have the Rams marked as my upset. It was insane what they were able to do in a divisional game against the Seahawks last week without Cooper Kupp. But Cam Akers was really able to step up. Tutu Atwell and Van Jefferson both stepped up in the deep game. And what did you say his last name again? Puka Nacua, that's correct.
I believe that's the correct
rookie stepped up big time in that all-around wide receiver game for the Rams. And then, of course, the Rams defense was the only spot where there wasn't really any question marks. Biggest question mark of all, in my opinion, coming into that game was Matthew Stafford and how he would play coming off an injury. And he looked like he barely missed a beat from that injury. Even with his older age, even coming off that season-ending injury, he played very well, not even having his top target in Cooper Kupp. So I think the Rams keep it going and get another divisional win here in Week 2.
Stafford played very well. He had over 300 passing yards, which is very good showing. Very dominant for the Rams over Seattle. And I think that this will be a really close game. I think this could end up being the game of the week. We'll see how it goes. But I have the 49ers in this one because of that dominant defense. They were way too good against Pittsburgh. They spoiled my theory, of going from the West Coast to the East Coast, and it didn't matter for them. They were able to put it together. Brock Purdy, who's from Iowa State, he's used to it. He had no body clock issues, so he came out and threw accurate passes and looked like a damn good starting quarterback.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how he holds up both injury-wise and play-wise as the season goes on, but he definitely did start off very well. Now moving on to a string of primetime games here, starting with an AFC East matchup with the Miami Dolphins heading to New England to take on the Patriots. And yet another split. Callan has the Dolphins in this one, I have the Patriots, and I have the Patriots because of one man and one man alone. That is none other than Bill Belichick. Tyreek Hill absolutely dominated in week 1, putting up 2 touchdowns and over 200 yards. So what is Bill Belichick going to do? He is going to shut Tyreek Hill down. It's what he's the master of. It's what he's done every week for the past 2 decades of coaching. He picks their best player, he shuts them down and makes someone else win. And Jalen Waddle is a very good player, but I don't think that Jalen Waddle and the rest of that offense is going to be enough to win with a Tyreek Hill shutdown. I think that the Patriots offense played just well enough to take out that Miami defense that gave up 34 points to the Chargers last week. And I think that in a little bit of a shocker, the Patriots pick up a win.
Yeah, I definitely had the thought of putting the Patriots in the W here, just because of Bill Belichick. But the way the Dolphins played last week, going on the road all the way to LA, I thought that was just really too good, and I think it'll be too much for Belichick to overcome. I just gave him props for putting out a competitive team. I think it'll be a very close game, and I think the Dolphins will squeak this one out late in the game.
Should be a fun one. Another one that has a chance to be the game of the week, definitely. And then now finishing it off with 2 divisional matchups and 2 Monday Night Football games. Starting off in the NFC South, we got the New Orleans Saints heading to Carolina to take on the Panthers. And we agree again, we both have the Saints in this one. The Panthers just didn't look there yet. I think that they have the weapons, both young and veteran. I think that the Bryce Young to Jonathan Mingo rookie to rookie connection is going to be very good as this season goes on, and especially for years to come. But it's just not there yet, and the Saints defense is too damn good. It'll really fall on the shoulder of the Saints offense to put up the points. But with Derek Carr, Michael Thomas, those guys, I think they'll put up just enough points to get a win, and the defense will all but shut out the Panthers offense.
Yeah, it'll be tough for that Panthers offense to get going against the New Orleans Saints. And, with the rookie quarterback, it's always tough, and they'll make it even more difficult. I think the Panthers defense is pretty good. I think that they will help them win some games this year, but not this one. Brian Burns is a hell of a player and will have quite the pass rush, but he just won't be enough. And I think Derek Carr will be able to overcome that and get the Saints a good win here.
Yeah, nod to Michael Thomas. He came back and played his first game in a while after a bunch of bad string of injuries, but he played really well in that game, so we'll see if he can finally stay healthy. And then finally, finishing it off in the AFC North, we have the Cleveland Browns heading to Pittsburgh to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we end by disagreeing. Callan has the Pittsburgh Steelers, I have the Cleveland Browns. I am all in on the Steelers. Just like with the rookie connection I talked about a little bit ago, I think the sophomore connection of Kenny Pickett to George Pickens is going to be borderline elite as the season goes on. But it did not look like it last week. But you know who did look elite was the Cleveland Browns defense. Absolutely dismantled that Cincinnati Bengals offense that everyone has been praising the entire offseason and all of last year. So I think that they continue to dismantle a young up-and-coming offense, and that Cleveland offense continues to put up an amazing rushing game with the rushing attack of Nick Chubb being their number 1, and then Deshaun Watson being a rush-first quarterback, it almost seems like.
Yeah, they did use Deshaun Watson on a lot of QB runs, but I think that the Steelers will win this one because the NFL doesn't make any sense. Steelers looked terrible last week. They didn't have anything. They didn't get anything going. Couldn't get anything put together except for one scoring drive, and that was it. They got shut down by the 49ers and were nearly held scoreless except for the one touchdown. But I think that this week they are able to put it together. I think that the Pickens connection gets going. And I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers will get an upset victory on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, divisional matchups are really where good players show up. I mean, it's just you see it year in and year out, game in and game out. So, again, kind of sound like a broken record, very good chance to be a game of the week right here on Monday Night Football. So that was our predictions for week 2 of the NFL season. Make sure to stay tuned in until next week. But until then, don't forget
to eat the W.